It has taken that shocking tragedy, but attention is finally focusing on the treatment of those poor workers in Bangladesh. Now, as we've just heard, hundreds of people were killed in that building collapse. Now, serious questions are being asked about underpaid and exploited factory workers. Building safety and workers' rights are ignored as companies chase profits. And now there are calls for the rest of the world to take a stand and demand better conditions. Earlier, I spoke to Sharif As-Saber, a professor of business at Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and asked if it is sad that it takes the deaths of so many people to finally prompt some action.
Look, that was a disaster no one expected to happen to that scale and with that much devastation it had. Now, given that, I think it is time for everyone from the industry, from around the world, from amongst, the people within the media as well. I think it is the right time to say that, yes, we must do something. Industry should come up. Foreign companies should come up. Even factory owners in Bangladesh should come up and say, yes, it is the right time to do something about it.
But when we talk about the level of exploitation, let's try to get some idea of that. Now, we're talking about people, often very young people, predominantly women, and not earning very much money, perhaps as little as $40 a month. Is this the type of exploitation we're seeing?
No, it is the industry itself is a very exploitative one. The scenario that we say that they only get $37 a month, I think it is much worse than that, because when the money, that is the wages, were calculated a few years ago, that was worth $37, but with the devaluation of Bangladesh currency, and currently I think it is no more than $20 a month, and which is a very bad industry practice. It is very exploitative and it is inhumane, because it is not the money that someone can actually survive on in a country even like Bangladesh.
Sharif, it's not just the money either, is it? It's the buildings, the type of structures that they're having to work in, which often are just simply not safe, as we saw with the recent building collapse and we've seen with fires previously.
No, look, the situation was always like that, I would say, and Bangladesh probably was waiting for such a disastrous event, unfortunately, I would say. Although we did talk about working conditions, we did talk about all sorts of harassment that was very much, within that industry, happening all the time. But building collapse of this particular scale never happened before. There were collapses, there were irregularities with respect to building structure and design. But I think there are many other buildings in the similar situation, or probably in even worse condition in Bangladesh, where this kind of operations are still going on.
Sharif, let's get some indication of just how reliant the world is on countries like Bangladesh. You can also look at Pakistan, you can certainly look at China as well, who provide so much of the garments that we all wear, the clothes, the shoes and so on. And the reason that we are able to buy these goods so cheaply. How much do we rely on countries like Bangladesh?
Oh, but too much. That is a simple answer, because we are relying too much on them. Recently, there was a tendency among, big brands in the US, in Canada, in Europe, and they were saying that, look, it is not what you can produce, it is not what we want. How much can you produce? Whatever amount or whatever number of garments you can produce, we are going to buy that. So the pressure was on, and pressure was escalating because they were relying too much on countries like Bangladesh, Cambodia, Honduras, even Pakistan. So this kind of demand, when it was escalating, and when it was putting the pressure on the government as well as on those garments owner, that is factory owners, I think all kinds of structures are just mushroomed without taking care of the proper, building code, without considering the design aspect of it, without considering the welfare of workers aspect of it. So they just went up, and without any proper checks, without any proper regulatory, codes and so on.
Sharif, just finally, what is required then from countries like Australia? Should there be a ban on those types of products coming out of countries like Bangladesh? Should there be greater oversight, more restrictions? Should people individually make a decision to boycott those sorts of products?
I don't think boycott is a solution. We need to improve the situation. Look, in 1911, what happened in New York, that was one of the largest building fire or garments industry fires in the history of garments industry. And that prompted one thing. That prompted American government to legislate proper guidelines, laws, and since that time, since 1911, no major incident of that nature did take place in the United States within that industry. Look, it is better to actually legislate, it is better to check what they can do, and at the same time, countries like Australia, the government of Australia, I would like to see the government of Australia putting pressure on the government of Bangladesh that, look, you must take action, you must do the right thing, you must make governments, manufacturers doing the right thing with respect to building structure and so on.
Sharif, again, thank you very much for joining us here. Thank you.
Thank you.